Welcome back to another episode of the Muffed Punt podcast. My name is Brandon, and this week we have the whole crew in the house. Like I said, we're just going to make it official. We got Paul and Terry here, and we got quite the schedule to go through. We got a lot of NFL news that has happened over the last couple of weeks. We're only less than 2 weeks out from the start of preseason.
It sounds right because of the Hall of Fame game. I think is a week early.
Yeah, so we're definitely getting into the mix, getting ready to start off for the ramp up into the next NFL season. How are you guys feeling? You guys excited?
I'm very excited for the season. I really am. And if I could just say that HBO finally decided on what team they're going to cover in Hard Knocks, and it's the Cowboys. I mean, if there's one thing I need in my life, it's more Cowboys time.
I thought they said it was going to be somebody else. How did it get to be the Cowboys?
They were one of the eligible teams, and
oh wow,
they Jerry Jones paid somebody else.
You know what? We should do a Muff Punt podcast breakdown of every episode. Each week we should sit down and we should do a retrospective, and we sit down and we really nash this thing out. We figure out what's going on with that Cowboys organization.
Oh baby, I don't think there's enough time. Can we do it blindfolded? I can't watch.
I mean, I love the Hard Knocks series. It's such a great show and like so well produced by HBO, but it's gonna be painful to have to watch the Cowboys, but I guess it will give Eagles a little enemy intel. Get to see what they're doing.
I'm just looking forward to those Lieb Schreiber voiceovers.
Yeah, I mean they're calming. They are. It's nice to know that once Morgan Freeman passes away, it looks like we've got someone to take the torch on documentaries and docuseries.
That's right. Today is a damn fine day for some football.
The thing about Lieb Schreiber, is it just me, or when he talks like on Hard Knocks, he has a different voice than when he's in movies,
not the
right?
same dude.
Like they're not the same guy.
No, that's not Ray Donovan.
No, that's not Ray Donovan at all. What I picture is him. He becomes that guy from NFL films when we were all kids. You remember those movies we used to watch when we were little kids? And we brought up before, Terry, like those big hits videos and stuff that we saw when we were younger. And there was always that guy with that amazing voice and the amazing music. And that's what it's like he embodies the soul of that guy and becomes that person.
Oh, I don't know how he does it. Harry Callis used to do that he used to work for NFL films for quite a few years. So he did a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, Harry Callis is the man. Absolutely. That was hands down one of the best. Back to the wall. It's out of here.
Yeah, just one of the most recognizable voices in sports. Even people outside of Philly knew exactly who he was every time you heard him.
That's so depressing, and now we're straddled with Joe Buck for two sports. Like, what the hell happened? It has gone downhill.
I think we joke a lot about nepotism on this show, and I kind of feel like maybe that's the biggest issue I have with Joe Buck. But I don't know. It's like the guy who rides the coattails of his famous father. But I don't. Do you guys think it's that, or do you just think it's the fact that he just does such a poor job behind the mic?
I think he's terrible behind the mic. I don't care how people get their jobs. I mean, would we know who Ken Griffey Jr. was if there was no Ken Griffey Sr.? Oh, I'm kidding. But but I mean I don't have a problem with nepotism when you can perform, but Joe Buck is just so bad.
I think it's because his voice is pretty recognizable, but
not in a good way.
I just don't like the way he calls a game. It feels like there's something not. You're supposed to feel good when you're watching your team on a national stage. You shouldn't want to, jump to your TV and punch the announcer in the face. But
it's tough.
He just gets on my nerves. Like just some of the little digs too that he gets in, and he does it to the Eagles, but he does it to a lot of teams too. Little backhanded comments that are subtle.
Whatever, it must be nice. Nepotism, that's the dream.
Yeah, there you go.
Reminds me of Step Brothers when John C. Reilly's like, oh yeah, I'm going into the family business. I'm going to be a doctor. It's who you know.
Well, we wanted to kick off everything this week with the topic of the Packers because Lord knows we chat a lot about the Eagles on the show. So we wanted to give Paul a little time to shine. And we've heard there might be some, shall we say, familiar faces heading back to the Big Green. What's going on there, Paul?
Yeah, it's good news. So we have a new highest paid cheerleader in the history of the NFL with Randall Cobb coming back to the Packers, $7 million for the year. And I don't know what they had to give up to get him, but I guess this is what Aaron Rodgers wanted. And I mean, Randall Cobb, I don't think he's played a full season since like 2015. So I don't quite understand this at all. It hurts a little bit to know that we're paying $7 million for someone who is well beyond his years. It's depressing.
Is it a 1-year deal?
It's the last year remaining on his deal because it's the third year of the 3 for 21 that he signed.
Okay.
I think it was with Dallas that he initially signed it, and then he went to the Texans, and now he's coming to the Packers. And 21 million and over 3 years. I don't know if he's going to play 21 games.
Well,
I'm kind of surprised.
Expiring contract.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm a little
fair.
surprised. I thought you'd be happy to have a little more support for him, but it just sounds like you don't feel like he's going to get through like more than 7 games, maybe.
Everybody always says the biggest ability in the NFL is availability, and that's something that Randall just doesn't have. Not over the last 4 years. I just remember seeing him on the sideline in street clothes, watching a lot of games.
So, Randall aside, it sounds like the big dog's back in the house. What's going on in that situation?
Yeah, he just signed his contract today. It voids the last year of his deal. The Packers can't recoup any of the signing bonus for the prorated thing, so he's getting all of the money that he had coming to him that was guaranteed without any repercussions. But this is the last year he's going to be with the Packers, and then it sets him up for free agency next year. So he's back for a 1-year rental unless the Packers really show off to him and convince him to stay. But I'm pretty sure he's gone after this year. And he said he mulled retirement over. I really wish he would have just retired. He wasn't going to retire though. There was no way he was going to leave that much money on the table. So he's back. He'll be here for a year, and then it'll be weird because I won't have an all-pro quarterback anymore. So I'll join you guys as like regular football fans with shitty quarterbacks. I don't know how to feel about that. Like,
welcome to the club, my friend.
I'm not excited. It's like my entire NFL is like up in flames. I don't want to deal with it. Regular quarterback play. What's that?
You get those flashes of brilliance like St. Nick, and then you're like, oh my God, we got a real quarterback. Woo! And then shortly thereafter, you scare the only other one you have left out of town, and then now he's playing for another team. So, yeah.
Oh, did you like Rodgers' kind of a Festivus airing of the grievances at his press conference?
That is the perfect way to put it. The airing of the grievances. That is fantastic. I love the Seinfeld reference, bro. That is fantastic.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I saw, because he's just digging into the organization, he's just like hates everything that they've done, and he called out everybody that they kind of just got the hell out of there. I mean, some of those guys, I think it's probably justified, but I think he was pretty pissed that a bunch of his boys just kind of got cut loose like that without him kind of having at least a little bit of say so.
Have you ever seen anybody just shit on their employer on national TV for 20 minutes and have no repercussions?
And then have a bunch of people be like, that was good. I like that.
I mean,
we're just glad he's back with the team.
Yeah. Like, I couldn't imagine stepping up there and then crapping all over my employer for all that time, then everybody not being like, yeah, he had it coming.
He got to live out everybody's small like dream of doing that to your boss or corporation type of thing.
That is the dream. But no, I'm not looking forward to it. I was secretly kind of hoping that they were going to flip Rodgers for Watson and I'd rather deal with that situation, I think.
He would never go for that. He would never go to Houston. He'd never have a chance.
He has no stay. He doesn't have a no trade clause. He has
Yeah.
no say.
I would be curious to see how long he would last behind that little of an offensive line, because his shoulder, I would imagine, couldn't be able to hold up to that poor of a line.
I don't know. I wanted Watson, or I wanted him to get traded to just the armpit of the league, wherever. I can't even think of who is the absolute worst right now. I don't know. Maybe Jacksonville, and then have Trevor Lawrence learn from him, and then he just dies and fades into the background.
Maybe the Vikings.
You're a dick.
Take the Brett Favre route.
If he's going the Brett Favre route, then he's got to make us stop out in New York and play for the Jets and I don't know, sexually harass some reporters or something for a little while.
Oh, I forgot about that. That was like DMs back in the days before DMs. Yeah, so in Packerland, it seems like it's moderately good news, shall we say?
I think you've got a pretty healthy mix of people who are really upset with Rodgers and just want to see him gone because of all the drama. But then I think you've got a lot of people who don't pay as much attention to the off-season noise that are just going to be thrilled to have him back. And as far as name recognition goes, I mean, there's some fans out there who are, I mean, just everyday fans don't pay as much attention or get into as much depth or detail as we do. That they're going to see Randall Cobb and be like, hey, he's back. That's awesome. And so I think they did a lot of good stuff for PR, but I don't think that they did anything to really improve the roster.
I've already seen the Randall Cobb highlight videos hitting YouTube.
What?
I was curious what your reaction was going to be to that. Yeah, I'm dead serious. Before we got started, I saw 2 different Randall Cobb highlight videos of like welcome home videos. Wow. Yeah, for the Packers.
Yeah,
was his last highlight from like 2014.
You know what? I didn't finish the video. It was like 8 minutes long. I got through. I mean, come on, that's a long time for highlights. A lot of it ended up being kick returns, which I wasn't expecting. But a lot of it was kick returns. He had the one that was pretty nice. He did like a barrel roll over the guy's back, and it was like his first game, I think, with the Packers.
So I'll never forget his first game. That was fantastic. He returned it 109 yards for a touchdown on the opening kickoff. And then he got to the sidelines and got yelled at by the coaches for taking it out of the end zone. He
was really deep in the end zone.
That was amazing. That is one of my favorite plays. And I think probably the only one aside from Brett Favre where I can name their first play with the Packers. Favre's first play to the Packers was a batted ball back, so his first completion was to himself in a Packers uniform.
Perfect. I think it was that, and then as the Hail Mary to Cobb in the back of the end zone.
Okay, yeah.
Those are the 2 more notable ones. I was thinking about having it for you for the podcast, but then I was like, I don't really know. He's never really seemed all that emotionally attached to Randall Cobb, so...
I try not to let myself get emotionally attached to athletes. They just break your heart.
That's true. Same as politicians. I'll move on. All right, Paul. So we made a list before the show. What was the next item on the list? You're going to be the bearer of topics for this episode.
Yeah, so we got Deshaun Watson. He reported to camp after saying he was going to hold out, but he didn't want to get fined. Smart. Don't mess with your money. But he showed up, and last Friday, his personal trainer was interviewed. I forget by who. I think it was someone on ESPN. And they were saying that they thought by Sunday, this last Sunday, that Deshaun was going to be traded. And the Texans have said that they're open to trading him. They said that they don't plan on him being on the roster, so they don't want him to take any snaps away from the person that they see as being their first string this year, so they can get all of the practice that they can. So Deshaun is back in a Texan jersey, but we don't know for how long.
That's an interesting one. What do you think, Terry? Do you think that because I mean, the big thing is the Eagles have the picks to go get him. Do you think that that might happen?
Yeah, I mean the rumors have been swirling all over the internet about it, but I honestly don't know. Like with the Eagles cap situation, I don't know how they would be able to make it work for this season. I mean, they would have to trade a guy with a like a Fletcher Cox would have to be involved in the deal. I feel like to make the contract and the cap stuff work out.
I feel like they'd have to do that, but they also have to make sure it's someone who doesn't have any dead money on the back end of his deal.
I don't know. I mean, it would. I mean,
It,
all the legal stuff aside, it'd be an amazing trade to get him. He's only 25. He's been to 3 Pro Bowls. I mean, just the types of plays he's made on the field so far would be great. I don't. If I was Howie, I don't know. That's a hard move to be able to make with there still being so many unsettled issues and stuff that are still out there. You could trade for him and then you might not have him next season.
Could you
what
trade
do you?
for him knowing he's going to be on like the commissioner's exempt list and maybe not getting paid, and then you
Well,
don't, and then you could
they
like wait till next year?
but they said that the fact that he's not on the commissioner's exempt list right now indicates that they don't have enough to bring against him to warrant anything that they believe will come up in this season. That's why the rumors are hot. But I mean, the Eagles, the Dolphins, I think was another name that was out there,
Yeah, for
and
Tua and some picks or something.
there's another team that I heard as well. That's um,
So
can't think of the other team.
Terry, you said that you've seen some stuff about the Eagles possibly going to get him. Have they gone into details? Because I mean, you
I
brought up
mean,
the cap number.
everything's all speculation, but like, I mean, people were just talking about what would it take to get him, like, and people were saying like, both first round picks, you'd have to give they're going to want at least 2 starters. So like people were speculating like, Fletcher Cox, because of the contract that he has, the money would kind of maybe even out a little bit. Then they said you might have to throw in a guy like a Goddard or
Does Ertz
they
have a lot
said
of
not
money on his deal?
Ertz has he's making like $8 million this year, so that's why they haven't been able to move him. And if they cut him, he's going to go sign wherever he wants, but he's not going to get $8 million. And the Eagles are apparently, from everything I read, they want it at minimum a 4th rounder for him. And some people have even speculated they wanted a 3rd rounder for him. So I think they're just waiting on him to see if someone gets hurt across the league where they can make a last minute deal and maybe kind of push that. But I don't know if the Texans would want to take him on for 1 year when he's going to walk anyway. That's why they were saying Goddard, because Goddard, they could sign him and they could extend him and keep him, but I don't know. I personally would love to have him, but I wouldn't make the move until I knew, kind of what was going to happen. But you might have to do it now or you're never going to get the chance.
Obviously, he's a talent. And I've heard that they're going to be lucky to get like 60 cents on the dollar on him right now because of all the pending stuff. But as a fan, do you want someone with that many distractions? Because I mean, he's got 22 unsettled lawsuits, and they're all civil. So I mean, civil lawsuits are much different than the legal ones that come from broken laws and all that. So there's a lot that can happen. Are you open to having the distraction there for the team? Because it seems like you guys have spent the last at least 2 years kind of really under a lot of somewhat of distractions, I guess you could say. I mean, because of everything that went on with Carson.
The quarterback
Jalen.
Distraction drama continues in Philadelphia.
Right. You got BDN for a little while. And so, I mean, you've had a lot of distractions there. Is it worth it, you think, to go get him?
I mean, talent wise, yes, but I mean, I don't know. We're still sitting here today and we don't know who Jalen Hurts is either. So we have a relative unknown, from everybody thinks he could have a chance to be pretty good, but we don't know that. We've only gotten to see, a 4-game snippet of what he can do, and he looked really good in one and a half of the games, and he looked average or below average in the rest of it. But he also got yanked in half of a game, when he was still trying.
That was kind of BS,
win,
but yeah.
But I mean, so he would obviously have to probably be part of the deal as well, because then that gives them at least the opportunity to see, if he can still play too. I think they did draft somebody, but I don't think he's quite as highly touted as Hurts is.
If I were the Eagles,
and I know they have Tyrod Taylor, I think is their kind of a plan B at this point. But
I love Tyrod Taylor. I always have.
I mean, but he's a stopgap. They would 100%. See what they would want to see. I mean, what Hurts, if Hurts could beat him out for the job, that would be ideal. But I don't know. I personally wouldn't like the distraction, but the talent is just so appealing, because people would stop talking about us being the bottom of the division, and we would be in talks to be winning the division at that point, even with our defensive issues, because of his talent.
He would immediately be the best quarterback in the division immediately.
And then he would be able to have that connection with Devante.
Shut the fuck up.
Damn it, Paul. Jordan Love is coming for you, buddy.
That's a dick move. That's a dick move. I didn't come after your team.
I don't know, but I definitely think the Eagles have the best chance of getting him. I don't know. We'll see. I still think they're gonna have to give up a lot to get him.
Yeah. All right. So next we've got Zach Wilson here. Just a quick little note. He did sign his rookie deal. From what the reports are saying, they wanted to put all his guaranteed money in the last 2 years of the contract. So if he did poorly, they wouldn't be on the hook for the money. So apparently we are the insiders for the New York Jets, because we've been saying that for months.
They've been listening to the podcast. They heard us talking about them, breaking them down. They're like, damn it, we should have watched these guys before the draft.
How do we miss them?
We had a subscriber a few weeks back, Douglas something. I might be Joe Douglas. I don't know.
Like KD got burner accounts.
Yeah, right. Like all the Colangelos. What was that guy from the 76ers?
Yeah, he had like 3 burner accounts of his own. His wife had 2. Like they were all over Twitter, like sneaking around.
Crazy. So yeah, Zach Wilson will be around. He was the last first rounder to sign his deal, but he is here to play.
It seemed like for a couple of days the Jets were a little worried they might not get the deal done. Like there were some reports, some back and forth, that it seemed like things were getting pretty contentious. I wonder if his mom picked up the phone and called ownership and had something to say about it.
Well, there's no way he did it on his own. Come on. He doesn't know the big words to you. What's a contract? Come on.
Yeah, the competing offer with Disney Plus, they were going to give him a little series about being a little high school football quarterback.
Yeah, he was going to play a young Zac Efron.
They were going to reboot Friday Night Lights.
All right. So
Zach's mom was going to play the coach's wife.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I think that might be an HBO Max show, not a Disney Plus show.
All right.
It suddenly became Varsity Blues, and I didn't even mean it.
All right. Now we're going to get back to the Eagles and close it out there. So we've got some news about Devante Smith. Terry, what you got for us on Devante?
Well, so far, we heard day one. Apparently, the Eagles, practice was only like an hour and like 15 minutes or so. But we had some red zone.
An hour and 15 minutes. Terry, did you ever have a practice that was an hour and 15 minutes?
Never.
We spent more time in the weight room after our practices.
I think our walkthroughs were longer than an hour and 15 minutes. But the CBA. these guys get that first week's kind of like they're just cruising for the first week, but no pads and stuff, but no more 2-a-days either. We did 3-a-days when I was in high school, and we were all like dead after practice. They were like dragging people off the field, but this is they don't want anybody getting hurt. They don't want to lose any star power. So I get it, but
once a year, like the first day of full pads practice that we had, our coach would have the fire department come down, and then they would spray their big hose on top of the truck at us and just soak us all down because we had just practiced for like 7 hours out in the sun, and like our color was dark green, so like it was hot. That was always one of the best days.
Oh God, yeah, we had navy blue jerseys and helmets. Actually, white helmets and navy blue jerseys, and then we went to navy helmets later. But
we had dark green helmets and then white face masks. So there you go. You come to practice, and then like halfway through the season, it looks like you're in a middle schooler's room. And just the helmets are not clean anymore. They've got all these white streaks all over. I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah, we didn't. There was no equipment managers. They basically made sure that this shit got on your head. Does it still stay on there? Get him a new chin strap. Get back out there. Face mask is half falling off. Yeah, it's different now, but yeah. So we had the first day of practice for the Eagles, and they said there were some pretty good battles between Darius Slay and Devante Smith, which for the most part it seemed like Darius Slay gave him that welcome to the NFL rookie moments. Apparently on the first there was a red zone drill. They were matched up 1-on-1. In the first one, they said Slay just completely shut him down. He didn't have a chance to make the play. They said on the second one, they said Devante did make a decent play on the ball, but he actually dropped it. He did end up getting a touchdown. They said against Steven Nelson on the other side. So he got his first touchdown in practice. And then apparently from today, I heard that him and Hurts connected on a 40-yard bomb that was apparently a pretty great throw and catch. The excitement for him is real. From everything that I've seen on his, heard about him so far leading up to camp, and then like the last 2 days, everybody seems to, at least all the Philadelphia, beat writers and everybody seemed to feel like that they got the right guy. So I'm super excited to see what he can do. Obviously, the trigger man and Hurts is the most important though. We gotta see how he progresses. They said he had a terrible first practice, and they said he was like 5 for 15 and he got picked off. And I didn't hear about how he did today, but it's still early on. Still learning a new offense, a new system. So there's got to be a little bit of time there. But I'm hopeful. I'm excited. I'm excited to see this. This is kind of a turning over a new leaf for the Eagles. So it's going to be an interesting preseason to see what happens, and then see how they do this year. They could. I feel like they could be really bad. They could be okay. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, though. Maybe an outside chance.
I did hear practices have been, I know we're super early, but I've heard practices have already been a bit more physical than what Dougie P had ever brought to the table. And some people feel like that might lead to some better Eagles football, because they said that I guess Dougie P was notoriously pretty light on them when it came to actually hitting in practice and all that fun stuff. So I don't know. Did you guys feel like that was important when you guys played?
You're playing at a different level. When you're playing in the NFL, I think you're kind of trying to preserve your body a little bit more. So I understand not hitting as much in practice. There was I forget the coach's name, but there was a coach. He coached a Division III school, Mount Union. They won, I think it was like 8 national championships over his tenure there. And as soon as the season started, they never had a full pads practice. So it was always shoulder pads and helmets, because he just wanted to refine what everybody was doing. look your fundamentals, make sure you're in the right position, and when you're playing at a lower level, a lot can come from that. So I don't think that you necessarily need the big hits. I think the big hits now just lead to players getting injured because players are bigger and hit a lot harder for the most part. I mean, of course, you've got those oddballs back like Ronnie Lott who could just lay you out and everything, but I feel like the overall talent in the league is a lot higher than what it was 15, 20 years ago. So I'm all about less hits because that's going to prolong the career.
Yeah,
Terry?
Saw a lot of keyboard warriors in the comments section saying that like if you get more hits in practice, it like gets you through the soft tissue injuries a little bit more, so that you're not having these like naggy things during the season. It was like the weirdest like take to have on it. So I was just curious where you guys were going with that, because it's like, do you feel like having contact would make you stronger for the season, or do you feel like having contact would make you weaker inevitably for the season?
I feel like if you have more contact, there's a higher likelihood of you getting injured.
exactly.
I feel like it's all about placement. If you can know on the field exactly where you're supposed to be, then you're doing everything except delivering the hit. So as long as you go through your fundamentals and you know how to hit, then there's no reason to put your body through the extra hits. It's funny, my coach, like I think it was my freshman coach, said exactly that oh, gotta get through these soft tissue injuries, so I need you guys to hit more. So I've heard that exact quote before.
Are you injured or are you hurt?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
you
Uh-huh.
know.
Yep.
I think like for the NFL, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do like big hitting drills for sure. I mean, sure you want to wake up the pads, get the rust off a little bit, maybe pop a guy, but you don't want to continuously do that because, like you said, it's just going to end up in injuries. But I do like, as far as Sirianni's been like preaching a lot of competition, even amongst like the veterans and stuff. But I feel like competition at this level is good, especially with the way that the Eagles roster is kind of built right now, where you have some veterans and you have like young guys. So I feel like the competing is kind of like a learning experience for everybody. Kind of like younger guys can learn from the veterans. The veterans are maybe getting pushed a little bit by these incoming guys. So I think that'll help with that. But as far as the hitting is concerned, I mean, not at that level. In like a high school setting, I feel like you probably have to hit a little bit more to see what players you have, like what they can actually do, who can actually tackle a running back versus who's going to get there and just try and grab their feet. they're not wrap up, or they're just going to get straight run over. But you have to kind of see who you have on that level before you can make an assessment. But yeah, just too much hard hitting is just going to end up in injuries and concussions, and you don't want that.
The NFL, they care so much about concussions.
Yeah.
All right. And then lastly here, when it comes to personnel in NFL, you guys picked up a new cornerback. You got a number 2 behind Darius, it looks like, and Steven Nelson. How you guys liking him?
I'm pretty thrilled. That's all I really need to say about it. We've needed to fill that position for a long time. That and linebacker has been like our biggest weaknesses, in my opinion. So I'm happy they're addressing it in some way. I feel like now we can move Maddox into the slot where I feel like he really belongs, and I feel like that would be a great thing for them. What about you, Terry?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, he's a solid second corner. I mean, I feel like it's going to make Slay better. He's not going to have to travel around like he did last year, following around, the best receiver. He's just going to be able to stay on the right and play the guy that's on the right. And Nelson can stick with the guy on the left. He's not the best, corner, but he is. I mean, he's pretty solid. So I feel like we can feel comfortable with him on the other side, and it definitely fills, a massive, hole in the roster that we had, because Avonte Maddox is a pretty good nickel slot corner, but he is absolutely not able to play on the outside. I mean, he got absolutely torched last year, and every time he was out there, he just looked terrible. And we're trying to we don't have super high expectations for this season, but we are trying to see an improvement in the overall team. And I also like the fact that it's a 1 year prove it deal that's kind of a little more incentive laden. I think he maxes out at 4 million. So if he does play up, think he had a pretty good season statistically like 2 years ago. So if he plays up to his potential and maybe shows us a little something more than we've seen, maybe he's not old, so maybe he's somebody that they might re-sign on a maybe like a 3-year deal and keep around for a little while. So I like it. I think it was definitely needed. We had the depth at the secondary was super thin. One injury and it would have been a rookie or an undrafted guy that was going to end up being your starter. So
all right, so we've got some college news, and since that's basically the feeder for the NFL, we thought we'd kind of touch on that. Got some big things coming over the last couple of weeks. We got conference realignment. So it looks like the Big 12 that actually had 10 teams is going to be the Big 8, but still called the Big 12 because they're going to try to recruit some other teams. But today, Oklahoma and Texas officially got their invitations from the SEC. It was unanimous, all 14 schools. So it looked like Texas A&M was going to hold out and say that they wanted to be the only Texas team and vote no. But it was unanimous. All 14 teams voted to invite both of them. So it looks like at some point soon, at least the SEC is expanding. There's also news that USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington have contacted the Big Ten, which currently has 14 teams, but still called the Big Ten for some reason, that they have contacted them about trying to join in. It's also been touched on that Kansas and Iowa State have been schools that Barry Alvarez has been looking into to take from the Big 12. Notre Dame is another one that's kind of been looked at. The Big 12 is also going, it looks like, to file a lawsuit against ESPN because ESPN was saying that hey, other conferences should come get these other big teams and add them in. So the Big 12 is fighting to hold on, but there's a lot of teams going a lot of different ways.
It's a crazy situation with this shakeup, but I mean, with the reports of the expanded playoffs, I feel like the superior conferences are going to want the top teams in there so that they can have the top competition. So your strength of schedule is as high as possible. And, obviously there's opportunities for teams to lose playing against better competition, but the showcasing of talent and the recruiting aspects of this whole thing, it's like you're going to play in one of the two, premier conferences. They're going to be all over TV. It's made for TV, football. Oklahoma's going to have to do something about their defense, and Texas has to do something about their whole damn team if they want to have any chance to compete in the SEC. So it's a good thing they have till 2025 to build their, well, at least Oklahoma built one half of the ball, and Texas just built their whole team up. But
I've heard those dates are flexible. They might be joining sooner. But they'd have to pay money to the Big 12.
They'd have to buy
2025 was when the Big 12 was going to redo their media rights, and they said they weren't going to be joining the Big 12 anymore. So I mean, 2025, they wouldn't have to pay anything to switch conferences, but I've heard that they want to push to make it happen sooner rather than later. And I think ESPN is happy because they just signed a $3 billion exclusive contract starting in 2026, I think, or 2024, one of those two, where they're going to be holding all SEC sports on their networks. So they have exclusive coverage of the SEC.
They got the rights away from CBS.
They got the rights away from CBS. Wow. Part of it is ESPN owns the SEC network.
Okay. I actually thought that CBS owned that. That's news to me, but yeah, it's going to be weird not seeing SEC football on CBS on
Right,
Saturdays.
like that's
like
what
that's like a tradition, like any other, like the Masters. It's always
a tradition
it's
like
always
no
the
other.
same. It's always, and they have that's the same, like little theme music before the games. But yeah, it's gonna
Hold on. Can I try my Liev Schreiber? A tradition like no other. The SEC on CBS.
It's gonna be really interesting, and then the expansion of the playoffs. I like it. I like it. It's I feel like a lot. I mean, there's certainly the Big 12 is gonna hate it, but it's I think it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good for college football. You're gonna have better teams playing each other every week. Though definitely, I mean, this is gonna like basically kill the out of conference cupcake games. If they do, they're going to end up playing Notre Dame because Notre Dame's probably going to still want to stay independent so they can always get that at-large bid. But yeah,
the at-large bid isn't what it was in the new playoff system that they're proposing. In the new 12 team playoff that they're proposing, still hasn't been voted on yet, but the four spots that get bye weeks would go to conference champions of 4 of the big conferences, and then they would have like basically pigtails where everyone would go out and then have to play a game to play into one of the games against the 4 conferences. So Notre Dame said that they're comfortable playing it that way, but they, unless they join a conference, cannot get an at-large bid for a first round bye.
Yeah, I mean, they currently have the semi-alignment with the ACC. So if they were to join that conference, it would be them and Clemson pretty much. I mean, there's a few teams that, Florida State, they've been pretty bad lately, but they're, big program. You got a couple up and coming programs in the ACC, but they're overall, they're pretty top heavy with Clemson.
I feel like, so from what I've heard, teams are trying to get Clemson and Florida State. I think it was the SEC that had tried to reach out to both of them, Clemson and Florida State, but Clemson has no incentive to move, because if they can roll through the ACC undefeated, then they've got one of the top 4 spots because they're undefeated in a major conference, from even though it's a subpar conference. I feel like there's really no argument. Granted, Oklahoma and Texas have been down, but even as down teams, can you think of a better football conference? I mean, maybe the Big Ten once in a while, but the ACC is down. The Pac, however many, is down. The Big 12 doesn't exist anymore. So I feel like a lot of people get upset that the SEC is so good, but look at all the top schools that are there.
Well, I think that's the point. The SEC is trying to bring in, the top teams, popular teams. Oklahoma and Texas are super popular teams, even outside of their own areas. The Big Ten is going to follow suit. They're going to bring in the heavy hitters out of the Pac-12, almost certainly, or at least a few of them. And then you still have Notre Dame as an outlier. They could if they go to the Big Ten, that brings them on too. I mean, then you've got another big powerhouse school in there. I mean, if they go with the ACC, then it's just them and Clemson fighting it out for the that bid every year.
But I feel like if UCLA, USC go to the Big Ten, that Notre Dame kind of has to, because they have rivalry games with Michigan, Michigan State, and USC at that point. And most schools in the Big Ten don't have 3 rivals. So yeah, to have 3 rivalry games like that, I feel like that is a big media draw. And let's face it, if you're saying that you think that the conferences want the best teams, I don't think they necessarily want the best teams. I think they want the most money. And Texas has a lot of money that it brings with it. I'm not sure what's going to happen because it hasn't been announced yet, but Texas has their own channel. They have the Longhorn Network, and supposedly it generates over $100 million a year. I think it was like 175 last time I looked. So I think they're just after the money.
Well, and then Notre Dame has the
I'd love to have commission on those commercials.
Right.
Notre Dame has the exclusive contract with NBC Sports. So they're getting a national audience every Saturday on, even when they're playing Navy. They're still getting all that exposure. So I mean, them aligning with a big big conference like the Big Ten, now you're going to get a chance to see them have to play Ohio State on national TV every, depending the way that they realign the conferences when they have added teams. But you're right, because then in their case, they're going to have the natural rivalries that they've had in the past will stay. Plus, you get like a Penn State added in there. They'll play Wisconsin. You get some new games that you haven't seen in quite a while. But yeah, it's good. It's going to be interesting. I love college football. Weekends is Saturdays college football. What's the game of the week? And then Sunday it's what time are the Eagles playing? All right, what's the 4:00? What's the 8:00 game? It's just football all weekend. So I can't get enough. And I'm sure this is gonna bring a whole new generation of college football fans too. Down the road, because you're gonna have these super competitive games every week.
Can I ask a semi-related question?
No, but thanks for asking.
So as I'll call myself now a former UFC fan, because I don't watch it religiously anymore. Are you guys worried, being college football fans, that what happened to me might happen to you, and then your favorite sport gets put behind a paywall? Essentially 2 paywalls now for me, but because essentially they put the UFC on ESPN Plus, so you have to own ESPN Plus to watch any of the UFC stuff. And then to even buy a pay-per-view, you have to own ESPN Plus. So I'm just curious as to, with them owning now essentially the rights to the SEC, I wonder how much of that they'll put behind a paywall.
I think that's interesting. I don't think that they're going to be able to do that with the SEC. And part of that, I think, is this might come off as a little controversial, but I don't know that the South has enough money to be able to get around the paywall. So you want to alienate your biggest fans in the SEC and not let them watch the games. I think that would be a mistake. Personally, I have the Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus package, so it doesn't impact me at all. And Brandon, if you ever want a pay-per-view and you need a login, you can just have mine.
Yeah, hit me up. I've got it too, dude.
So I don't think that there's going to be a paywall for this. I feel like there was always a paywall for UFC, because like, as long as I can remember, and this is just me I am a very novice when it comes to UFC coverage. So I thought they always were pay-per-views. So just adding the extra layer.
When it started back in the day, it was because like it wasn't legal in most states, so it was like legitimately just like a pay-per-view that you had to buy, like a WrestleMania sort of deal.
Okay.
And I got into it because a good friend of mine, his dad would buy them for us if we did good on our report cards.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah, so if we did good, then we got to watch guys beat the crap out of each other. But we
How
were always
American.
we were always into it because of all the different, like, you actually got to watch like sumo wrestlers take on boxers and stuff. And like as little kids, that was like the closest thing to like Street Fighter that you could ever get like in real life.
Love it.
So that's what like really brought me, because it was like a natural progression from like WWE to UFC. And then after that, like, so yes, you are right. But at one point it got on Fox. And then once it got on Fox, it was like, oh man, they hoped it was going to blow up like football, but it didn't. And then when the Fox deal ran out, ESPN came along and were like, hey, we'll do it. But now essentially we're going to put it behind this double paywall. And I know I'm not the only person that kind of stopped watching at that point, because it's just like, it's a lot to, like, there's so many pay-per-views now. It's hard to like keep up with it just financially, to try to, like, if you're just a fan of the sport. Like I used to listen to like podcasts back when podcasts were like brand new about UFC stuff all the time, because they would like have guys that would actually go to the fight camps and stuff. So it's like, for me, that was like a natural progression in my life, because I enjoyed wrestling when I was a little kid. So it was just like, oh, this is like adult wrestling.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the UFC, I think the UFC's made, I mean, they definitely struck gold with the ESPN deal. And But you're not missing much if you're not
You know what,
watching
Terry?
those main
I really
fights.
wonder if, like, yes, they got paid, and the Fertittas who own the UFC sold it. They're gone now. They have new owners now. So ultimately, yes, they did exactly what they wanted to do. They got a product that no one knew about. They blew it up, and then they sold it for a ton of money. That's the American dream right there.
Yeah,
But
selling
and
out. But
in that step, now with it being behind two paywalls, they also have now taken it to where they took away all of the fighters' ability to have their own sponsors. Your sponsor is Reebok. You don't like that? Kiss my ass, go fight somewhere else. And you get what I say you get from Reebok. You don't get to like negotiate your own shit, nothing. Like,
well, and then that their pay, their wages, what they get paid for the fights, that they don't really make a lot of money, based on, I mean, like, I think you get like pay-per-view points if you're fighting in a pay-per-view, so you might make a little extra
if you're
money.
a really big name, you'll get a portion of the pay-per-view.
If you're headlining or you're co-headlining, like you're a co-main event, or like they've had recently a couple of like three title fight pay-per-views, so all those fighters are making a little more money, but everybody else is making the same, no matter whether you're Joe Schmo that's like unranked, or you're ranked fifth, but you're not fighting in a main event. So I do agree, and I don't like the way that it took a lot of the personalities of the fighters, the ability for them to kind of have their own style and stuff like that. I don't like. So I do definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, so I feel like you see it now a bit with like the NBA's adding logos to the jerseys. You see it more with the NHL's adding more and more advertisements to the jerseys. Like, I just wondered how long it'll be before that stuff really just impinges upon people's love of the game, because it's just a constant advertisement in your face. It's like there has to be a... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll wait.
I was just saying there has to be a breaking point. Go ahead.
So I mean, look at, I don't really pay too much attention to soccer. I never have, but I mean, their jerseys are essentially just advertisements, and like, so is NASCAR. Do you think there's really a point that I hate it personally, because I grew up with plain jerseys just with logos, but I mean, everything about the way the world works, everyone wants every last penny that they can make, so they're gonna end up selling more and more of the jersey. Do you think there's really with a point in which that people will start to get annoyed, or do you think it'll be like soccer where everyone just accepts it for what it is and just continues watching?
I personally think it's going to end up being like soccer. I think the NBA, they have one logo on the jersey now, or I'm sorry, one advertisement on the jersey now. I know the NHL, they were basically renting out ad space wherever they could, because the NHL is like, the NHL is dying. Like they're losing money so much. The pandemic really hurt them.
They signed a deal with ESPN, so I'm curious if that's going to revitalize the league.
Possibly. I mean, but I noticed that, because I remember watching the Flyers and I'm like, what the hell is this thing that's on their helmet? And then I texted a buddy of mine, and he's like, dude, they're selling advertising space, like they're hurting. And I was like, you kidding me? And okay, well, and then the NBA is doing it. So I don't know if it'll cover the entire, jersey the way that like a soccer jersey is, like where they have like multiple advertisements on it. But I could definitely see that being a possibility. The league that I think will be the last to fall will be the NFL, if at all.
I think the owners will be very stringent upon not wanting to have anything other than their logo being the team logo on their uniforms, but it depends on the dollar bill, y'all.
I disagree. I think that they're such greedy fucks that the only thing that they're going to care about is how big their bank account is.
Now, wait, hold on. Think about this. When they sell an overpriced NFL jersey and it's the authentic with the advertising on it, that's going to be even more increased money that they're going to get from the advertisers, because they're selling jerseys with advertisements built on it, because you want to look just like the player that's on your team.
I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not either. I haven't bought a jersey since I think Brian Dawkins was my last jersey, but that's a fucking good jersey.
Yeah, that's a good jersey.
That is a solid jersey. And
But
I don't buy jerseys either.
But
ever.
You shut up. My last jersey that had a name on it was Riley Cote. And I've bought 2 of his jerseys, and I will still probably buy another one day because he was the flyer that got me into hockey. So watching him beat people's faces in on the ice was what got me into hockey.
All right, I'm gonna need us to start planning a trip to a Buffalo game so I can get my rookie card and my jersey signed from Josh Allen, because I am going.
Dude, you're
all
such a
out
fanboy. You want
Allen.
to take a road trip to Buffalo?
You want to be? You think he's going to be MVP
Dude,
now?
Come on, think about it. We could watch the crowd do stupid shit in the parking lot while they're tailgating. They literally jump off campers onto tables.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that dumb stuff.
We could even join.
But what are we gonna wear, man? We can't wear our Eagles gear. You can't wear your Packers gear. I don't.
Why not?
Well, you could wear your Bills jersey now. What the hell, Terry and I gonna wear?
That sounds like a whole hell of a lot of not my problem.
Yeah, I think I have an NBC Sports like NFL football jersey somewhere or hoodie. I'll wear that.
The generic NFL Shield shirt.
Yeah, right.
look like we're in the background of Madden.
I'll be like, "What is football?"
Oh man, you just reminded me of The Longest Yard. Will you teach me to football?
Wrapping up here because we're hitting towards the end of the show, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention a little bit of the baseball trade deadline because it is today and things have been a little crazy. I think the biggest news coming out of it is the looks like the Nationals have left Juan Soto by himself. Going to be Mr. Lonesome Soto in the Nationals uniform. He's going to be headed, or not Juan Soto himself, but Max Scherzer and Trey Turner are going to be heading across the United States. Terry, give me the deets on that deal. Do you have that there?
We had Max Scherzer and Trey Turner to the Dodgers. In return, the Nationals get a huge, apparently, according to ESPN, a huge prospect haul. So I'm assuming these are all pretty high-level players, but right-handed pitcher Josiah Gray, catcher Kybert Ruiz, right-handed pitcher Gerardo Carrillo, and outfielder Donovan Casey. Gray and Ruiz were rated as ESPN's as the Dodgers' top 2 prospects in their minor league systems entering the season.
So a big haul of prospects.
The other 2, both of them were ranked within the top 100 prospects in Major League Baseball. 2 of the 4 guys.
And I think Paul brought up a really great point before we recorded tonight, is that a lot of people feel that it might be possible that Scherzer is basically going to be a playoff rental, and then from there maybe could go back to the Nationals. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are thinking, is that Scherzer was traded for and delivered for the Nats. I mean, he brought 2 Cy Youngs, a World Series. I think he won a Golden Glove somewhere along the way too. So he's really solid, obviously. Everything that I'm kind of hearing is that it's just a playoff rental. He's going to go try to win a World Series, and then he's slated to be a free agent in the offseason, and it looks like he wants to go back to the Nats after that.
So if you're the Dodgers and you give up that haul and you basically maybe keep Trey and that's it, I guess if you feel like if you win a trophy, it's worth it. But if you don't, do you feel like you lost out on this trade then?
I think the Dodgers think that they can keep Scherzer.
Like Mookie Betts.
Yeah. It's like slated to be a rental, but I think that they can convince him to stay.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely convinced Mookie. I thought Mookie was going to try to hit the market again and see what he could get money-wise, but he said he absolutely loved it there. So maybe they'll have the ability to do that for him as well. I mean, it's interesting now. I mean, they got Pujols, right, earlier in the year, and we were joking around that was going to be a whole lot of nothing. And then now we're bringing in Scherzer and Turner. And, I mean, earlier this morning, I got done reading all these articles about how he's going to go to the Padres, and now all of a sudden it's swapped up at the last minute, it seems.
Yeah, I remember when you guys started talking about it right before we were recording. I was like, and you said the Dodgers. I was like, you mean the Padres? And then they're like, no, that changed. So, I mean, that was a quick turnaround.
And the Phillies also had a switcheroo played on them with Tyler Anderson. He was supposed to be slated coming to the Phils for 2 prospects. But from my understanding, the medical staff from the Phillies and the Pirates had a bit of a disagreement as to the severity of an injury. To my understanding, the Phillies didn't think he had an injury at all, from what the article stated, but the Pirates felt like he did. So then the Pirates called up the Mariners and ended up taking a little bit of a lesser deal, but they went through with it almost immediately and didn't, because I guess from my understanding, they quabbled with the Phillies for about 4 days as to who the other player was going to be rather than the injured party, and they couldn't come up with anybody, so they called the Mariners and ended up doing the deal with them instead.
Makes me hate the Pirates even more now. Because that would have ensured that Vince Velasquez would not have been like he would have maybe seen him every once in a while in like a long relief situation. But yeah, that sucks because the Phillies could have definitely used a left-handed pitcher. But I don't think they've made any moves up to this point that I've heard.
I want to save Paul some pain, and we're not going to mention this other part because I love him, and I want to make sure he doesn't have to talk about it this week, maybe next week. Did you see all the moves the Flyers have made? Like, it has been absolutely insane, man. Like, they brought in the lesser notes, I saw that they brought in Keith Yandel, which I absolutely love for the defense because you got a guy that's on the latter end that can bring it in and really help shore up things and kind of teach the right way to do things. But then finally we see Jakub Voracek headed out back to the Blue Jackets to play out his career, bringing in Cam Atkinson. I think that'll be good. So from my understanding, Cam Atkinson is friends with Kevin Hayes. And so I heard that was part of it as well. And then I saw we brought in, was it Ristolainen, which is
I think
probably
we got fleeced in that trade.
You think so?
I think we gave up a little too much.
I think we more got fleeced in the ghost trade. We literally got nothing back. We traded a second and a seventh to get rid of him.
Yeah, but we cut him last year and he cleared waivers. Nobody wants that guy.
It's a shame, man.
I don't know what happened. Well, I mean, first of all, he's a very small guy playing defense, and he had that 1 year where he caught fire, and then after that, everybody figured him out, and he just couldn't play anymore. So, but I mean, it's still going to take a lot for me to get back on the Flyers train here because they had 1 year where they showed, some promise. And then last year, that just absolute train wreck that happened. But I feel like they had to make all these moves to pick up. And the Ryan Ellis move too.
Yes, thank you. That's
another big pickup. They wanted to rebuild their defense because Carter Hart, it was, up until maybe like about 20 games into this season, everybody was like thinking, this guy's the goalie of the future. He looks like an absolute star. And then all of a sudden, the defense is falling apart around him. He's letting in a lot of bad goals. It seemed to really become a problem for him. So I think Chuck Fletcher said, you know what? We're just gonna tear this up, and we're gonna rebuild the defense around him, so that way he can get his confidence back next season. And then in the meantime, offload some, contracts, get rid of Voracek. Atkinson for Voracek is kind of fairly even trade. As
cool
far
with
as their talent, he's a little more consistent offensively, I think, than Voracek was.
Voracek's been here for 10 years. He never scored over 25 goals a season. I'm fine with it.
I think it was time for him to go. I was thinking that maybe a Giroux move was going to happen, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe.
I feel like this is the biggest culture shift you could have, not getting rid of Giroux.
You want my honest opinion? I think at the trade deadline this season, if the Flyers aren't, if they're like outside of the contention, he gets traded to a contender, and that'll be in the Giroux for the Flyers.
If they don't do well this year.
Right. I mean, if they have a complete resurgence like they did 2 years ago where they came out of nowhere and all of a sudden were good.
What I heard was they overperformed in the bubble. Nobody saw that coming, and then they got full of themselves, and that's why they sucked so much last year.
Well, they were hot before the bubble. Like they were playing pretty well before the pandemic shut everything down. But then when they got into the bubble, they definitely played pretty well. But I just don't know what happened this past season. I mean, their defensive flaws definitely were glaring, and it caused them to have concerns about Carter Hart. So I'm glad that they made a lot of changes because it was needed. I think there's a lot of people that were tired of the same old shit with the Flyers.
Did the Blackhawks do anything, Paul?
Yeah, they've actually done quite a bit. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but they traded for Marc-Andre Fleury from Vegas. Wow. But he's contemplating retiring because he said if he was traded from Vegas that he was going to be out. But Stan Bowman, the GM for the Blackhawks, called him and don't know if it's going to happen. But from what I read, he was upset, one, that he got traded at all, and two, he was upset about the return. They got a minor league forward for him, and that was
wow.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
He's 36, but he's the reigning Vezina Trophy winner. So he just won best goaltender in the league.
Yeah, and goalies can be a little older and still be good. I mean, look at Brodeur. He was still good for fucking forever.
Yeah, until he was 65 and started going on Medicare.
Yeah.
I feel like
Does Russia have Medicare? No, I'm kidding.
I feel like Fleury is like, just get him to the playoffs, and that guy turns into a completely different player.
Yeah. I think that the Blackhawks,
unless he's playing the Flyers, and then we can get into his head. Sorry,
that's a dick move. I think the Blackhawks are going all in on this year because they just traded for Seth Jones a few weeks ago, right before the draft. They gave up a pretty good haul for him, but they're expecting him, it looks like, to be the new face of the franchise because Taze and Patrick Kane are up for new contracts. And there's no news as to them keeping either one of them. And I think that's obviously a mistake. The two people who were the face of the franchise. I mean, God, now we're going to go back into baseball and you're going to get me to the Cubs. You dick. This is the longest. This is the greatest troll you have ever had because you tried to avoid it. And by not avoiding it, you got back there. But they're doing exactly. Yes. You're a fucking twat, Brandon.
So on that note, more bad news. Kyle Schwarber has just been traded to the Red Sox.
Wow. Are the Nats having that bad of a season that they're just having a fire sale too? Because Schwarbs was doing great for them this year.
Yeah. I mean, but to go to the Red Sox is kind of lame. For him anyway, because I would
talk
imagine
about the rich getting richer.
I mean, I was sad to see him go from the Cubs in general. I didn't imagine that would be a guy that they're going to keep the hold on to for quite a long time, to see him go to the Nationals in the first place, but then for him to be kind of like a rental player there. I do hope as a person that he can find a team that he can like stick on with for a little while, because I do think he's like genuinely a good dude.
Yeah, I don't know. Watching the Cubs be taken apart piece by piece since 2016 has been difficult. And I mean, essentially the Hawks have done the same thing. They let Duncan Keith go this year. It doesn't look like they're going to bring back Kane or Taze after their contracts expire. They got rid of Brandon Ladd, Brandon Saad, everybody who won a cup with them that mattered. So I think that Marc-Andre Fleury, he's fantastic, as we all know, but hopefully the Cubs or not the Cubs. Fuck you. Got me all rattled. Hopefully the Blackhawks are just going all in for 1 year to see if they can make one last stand before they get rid of everybody.
I'm excited because, I mean, we're right on the doorstep of football. We're then going to hopefully lend into a different kind of rollover season for the Flyers and in the NHL. So we'll kind of see how things pan out here for us. We're heading into some postseason baseball. We're into the second half of the season. So for me, it's the best time of the year that's coming up.
Yeah, but this is not the best time of the year. The best time
not
of
right
the year
now.
is
We're
not
heading
when there's
into
only baseball. When baseball is the only pro sport on, that is the most depressing time of my year.
And like right now, at least we have the Olympics to kind of give us something else to watch for a week.
I'm out.
Weeks.
I normally really like the Olympics, but I haven't been following it this time around.
It's something other than baseball that I can at least keep my attention for a few minutes. But yeah, there's not a ton of Olympic stuff that I'm really, avidly watching. But I will watch the track stuff because I think that those guys are incredible, especially when you watch Usain Bolt just torching dudes.
You think he's going to this year? Isn't he old?
I don't know. We'll see. I think there's a few guys they said that may have a chance to maybe have an outside chance to beat him, but we'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely interesting. I'm glad that people are starting to kind of realize how little the athletes get out of participating in the Olympics, and hopefully that'll get to change in the near future, but doubtful. But anyway, I thank you guys for another great show. I always definitely appreciate the laughs. I always get comments about how loud that other people hear me laughing when we record this, so I always do appreciate having a few more laughs added to my week for sure. So thank you guys for coming out as always. Make sure you guys hit like, make sure you subscribe down below. I would be remiss to say that last week we did have our most watched, viewed episode of any episode that we've ever done. So definitely thank you guys for helping to make that possible. Make sure you help us out. Hit that like button. Make sure you leave a comment. It really helps a lot with YouTube's algorithms, with them showing us to other people. So then that way we can not get shown to the same 200 people every week. So thank you guys so much for that. I do appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Take it easy.
It's my turn. You told me it was my turn.
You can talk all that you want to, yell and scream, you lost.
It is my turn.
You lost the game. Take as long as you want, you still lost.